And so I asked you guys on Monday, give me some artists that you like, pick a favorite. And so I kind of went through what you said. Emily,
Yeah.
I knew you. You know why? You were in my class last semester.
Sorry.
You're all right. I'm glad you're here. So I thought I'd take a look at some of the artists that you talked about. And what I'd like to do is come back to these two questions. And that is, what is the artist trying to do and how well do they do it? Does he or she do it? And so I got this guy here, Yoshitaka Amano. And I don't remember who said that. I didn't write those things down. David. So bottom line, what do you like about this guy?
I like how he like designs outfits for different characters and makes them like fit into like different worlds or like different backgrounds and stuff like that. How like even if the characters are standing still, they still look like they have this like flowing like look to them. I don't know how I like to.
I don't. I think I know exactly what you're talking about because I agree with that. I think that how you get there, at least part of how you get there, is line quality.
Yeah.
And I noticed that with a lot. I picked one, but there were a lot, and it seemed like there was a kind of an idea of subject matter turned towards fantasy. So you agree with that, and that's fine. So line quality, flowing, gestural are real easy to look at. Is the artist doing what we think he's doing? Is he doing it well?
Yes.
I think so too. I think that's good description. And we had another conversation, a kind of corollary too, talking about how sometimes artists get their ideas from the art history books, the kind of stuff that we're going to study in here. And we talked about some superheroes and things, Marvel. And I picked this one because it reminded me of this. This is William Blake, and it was done in 1794. And so there is, I think, some kind of similarity. I've never seen Amano's work in person, but I have seen this. And it was William Blake back in the year 1794. It was used as a front cover of Blake's book, Europe, A Prophecy. And so the pose is the same, but there's also a lot of similarities with the line quality too. Don't you look at his hair and his beard is blowing. And I thought, you know, this is really, this reminds me of something I know already. So I want to kind of throw this out too, because this is an important point, is, how should I say this? Does that matter to you that there are similar artworks from a different century? Is that a good thing or a bad thing, or is it neutral, or what do you think?
I would say it's kind of a good thing because I guess it shows that like even people of the modern age take inspiration from the past and like put their own spin on it, like whether it be like very like noticeable by like the modern audience or like historians like can see it like immediately.
What do you guys think? Is that true? Yeah, I see a lot of people, and I agree with you too. So I fully agree with that. And the reason I wanted to kind of bring this up, I have another ulterior motive here, a point I want to get to, and that is that there are some who prize originality over everything. And so, and one guy that I forgot to bring a slide of that I know we talked about, and Jackson Pollock. And part of what gave Pollock a lot of credibility was that it was original. Nobody really had done seriously drip paintings on a canvas. But this idea of originality and being totally new is kind of an idea that's based in modernism. And in fact, that's how we got the name modernism, because everything is new and improved, you know, and this is new and improved too. I would agree with that. But bottom line is that originality, first of all, in this day and age, it's kind of hard to do something completely original because so much ground has been covered over the years. And so embrace that art of the past and bring it into the modern context, the modern language. And I fully agree with that. And originality, like I say, it's a modernism thing. And another aspect of that is this. In a lot of cultures, originality is not really that highly prized. And in fact, in some cultures, your adherence to being like the old masters is highly prized. If you want to be, because I have a friend that made me aware of this. His name is Lampo Leong, teaches painting at Mizzou. Wonderful guy. And he talked about how in his training, in his schooling as an artist, he studied calligraphy, Chinese calligraphy. And the whole objective was to be as close to, as faithful to the old calligraphers from antiquity. No room for variation. If you could do what they did 7, 8, 1,000, 1,500 years ago, that's what you wanted to do. Originality was not part of it. They weren't training people to bring up a new style. They wanted artists that could do the traditional art form. So anyway, that's typically an issue when we talk about art, and especially because of where we're going to start in this book. We're starting at the year 1400 in Europe. So anyway, I didn't know if I got this right. Somebody, Cryos?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's fan art of him.
Yeah,
So he's a
it is.
YouTuber.
I couldn't sift through all. I
Yeah,
didn't really
if you
know.
look up Cryo's paintings, you can find some of his paintings that he's done. 'Cause
Okay.
they're more recent, his paintings are.
I
so.
see. So this is fan art. How do you make that? What's the distinction?
For like fan art,
Yeah.
basically like someone just drew a picture of him and like would send it to him as, I've never drawn fan art or anything like that, but
I see. So this is kind of an interactive sort of thing that he does. People draw pictures of him.
yeah, they'll like a game that he's played or something like that and kind of draw a picture of him either playing that game or something like that.
Oh. Well. Sorry, I didn't have the
It's all right.
exact kind of, yeah, but there was a lot of stuff from all of these people you guys talked about. And there was a few things I liked about this though, and it's basically taking a kind of a style that we're all pretty much familiar with and adapting it to make this a portrait, a fan art piece. And so I kind of like that. And I really kind of like the crown up here too. I'm really kind of partial to symbolism. And I saw a lot of symbolism in the artworks that you guys talked about. And that's really good. And the other part of it is, if you're using symbolism, you almost depend on something being not particularly original. Because if you make up stuff and you get too far off the original, nobody will understand what you're doing. So, all right, good. And Hirohiko Araki, who said that? Somebody did.
Yeah, I think that person was the one that was called.
Oh, Julia, was that you?
No, I don't think it was her, but like another person that was.
Ah, you see who I got? Well, could be. Nobody going in it? Or can I talk about it a little bit?
Oh, you can talk about it. I know about the artist. too.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, and that's going back to something I said just a little while ago. That having work that's based on other artwork is just fine. Like you would not understand, for instance, that this was a unicorn unless there were some parameters for a unicorn, that it was a horse and it had this pointed horn right in its forehead. There's a lot of things that we kind of pick up on. And I was seeing a lot of that, and I was actually kind of pretty good with that. And so a lot of this is a different kind of line quality, but it's still pretty interesting. This is okay, somebody gave me the dancer of 14 years. Who said that? Rayleigh. Riley. Okay, I'm getting it. I don't have my names here. Riley, sorry. So what do you like about
I just like most of Degas' work anyways. I really like his oil paintings.
it?
But
Yeah.
we have the statue at my house.
Oh, you got like a replica of this? Oh, sweet.
So I just like grew up with it and I really like it.
What do you guys think? Yeah. Well, it looks like we're kind of, I like this, that we're pretty much in agreement here. I wanted to add to this because I like it a lot too. I like all this stuff you guys brought up. But I want to contextualize this a little bit. And this is like early modernism, when art, especially European and American art, put a premium on doing new things. And one of the things, and I remember this back from when I was sitting where you are, and there was another old guy up here telling me what this stuff was all about. He talked about this as being kind of a breakthrough sculpture, in that it's not just bronze. And in fact, the dress itself, the tutu, if you will, is made of cloth. And so it's kind of a mixed media sculpture, which was kind of new, not entirely new, because you can go back in antiquity and find sculptures that use more than one medium. But typically it would be something like,
Yeah, that's really cool to learn about, because while looking at this statue, I thought it was just like either fully made out of bronze, or the skirt probably was made out of a different material, but I couldn't quite tell. And it like tricked my eyes a little bit.
yeah, it does do that. And that was another thing, the artist of late 19th century France, and Riley can tell you about that because she's familiar with a lot of other Degas works. They do kind of fool your eye, the way that they mix colors together and stuff. They were really into the idea of what we would call the optical mix of color. Or in this case, it would be the optical mix of texture. But, got it? Oh, I thought you were going to say something.
Oh, no.
Okay, but that's what we talked about, a long time ago. And again, it wasn't exactly new. There are sculptures from antiquity that would have a wood sculpture and say have seashells put in for the eyes or something. But this was, again, reinventing an idea and putting it into the context of late 19th century French art. And if you're familiar with his pastel drawings and his paintings, you'll see the sculpture fits right in there. There were some other things that Degas did that were kind of new and novel. We'll talk more about that when we get to the 19th century. And I pulled this out of the slideshow from chapter 21. Who talked about Venus?
I did.
I'm sorry, I couldn't. You guys are wearing masks, I can't tell.
No, I'm online.
No, she was
On Zoom,
Yeah.
Kaylee, was that you?
Yeah, it was me.
Okay, I can barely hear you, but I'm glad, and I think this is a good choice. Can you tell us a little bit more about what,
Sorry.
why you like this?
I really like the movement. Like you can see like the wind blowing through her hair from, I forgot what the angel's name is. I also like how this painting was supposed to represent like coming together as a society.
Could you guys hear her?
No.
No. Well, Kaylee, I heard a little bit of it, and let me see if I can. So we're going to take a look at this. This is in that canon of art history, the textbook, the encyclopedia. And I think that what she was talking about, she liked the movement and things. I could hear a little bit of what she was saying. And that kind of fits with what you guys were talking about with your art that was made, you know, like in the 21st century. And so those are kind of ideas. And they are yet another way that we evaluate the art. And I think that everything that we've talked about and seen so far, you can see what they did, and you could, I think, make a good case for everyone that they did it pretty well. Once you understand what they're trying to do, you can make an evaluation how well they did it. And so this is a very famous painting. And as a matter of fact, I showed you all of those versions of the Mona Lisa. This painting itself gets a lot of that kind of treatment. You look it up. There, I saw one picture of this that was like Gilligan's Island. You guys know about Gilligan's Island? Yeah, some old TV, 50, 60 years old. And this was one of the characters. What was her name? Tina Louise was Ginger, yes. And then this was Gilligan and the skipper and Mary Ann, and you know, just kind of destroyed it. Bottom line is that the reason that works, just like the same reason those memes of the Mona Lisa work, is because it's so recognizable. If you didn't know what this was, it would not make a lot of sense. And so this is a well-known standard painting in the canon of Western art history. Who was talking about George O'Keeffe?
That was me.
Julia, was that you?
Yes.
Oh, good. What do you like about Georgia?
I really just love that she paints a lot of flowers, and we have a bunch of prints of her paintings in my house, so I see them like all the time.
Well, I think that's like so cool. You guys are growing up around art. Yes, and I like George O'Keeffe a lot too. And so basically, George O'Keeffe is mega famous. And she lived to be very old and made a lot of paintings. And as Joy was talking about, a lot of flowers, a lot of nature. And that's what she and others in her orbit wanted to do. She moved out to Taos, New Mexico. And there is still a thriving art colony in Taos, New Mexico. And she moved there from New York City because she liked the nature. She liked the way the light hit that part of the country, the mountains, the flora. And she painted, actually, she painted too, aside from the flowers and plants, she painted a lot of cow skulls and stuff like that, because they had this certain kind of whiteness because those bones bleached out in the desert sun. And so anyway, but this was a move to nature. Not the first one. It was a new approach to an old theme. And one of the things that O'Keeffe is noted for is that she did this kind of close-up version of nature. And so some of the flowers, Julia, you have any of them that are like, any images that are like real close-ups of the flowers and stuff?
They're not like super close up, but like there's one in my parents' bathroom that's like this huge purple flower.
Ah. Yeah, well, you know, the idea of getting up close and not super close up sometimes, but that is it. I mean, she would fit in today with the kinds of ideas she had. And like you can see here, this was done in 1925. Well, if I'm not mistaken, that's almost 100 years ago. Just say it. And somebody talked about Bob Ross too. Was that you, Wes?
Yeah.
And I put him in there. Here he is. Here is his painting. It's not exactly the same painting, but it was the closest one I could find. How many of you know Bob Ross? Oh, good. Yeah, you guys have it. Was he influential?
I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
He definitely brought painting to more people, and people would just watch his show and stuff like that.
I fully agree. There was a time, I can remember, there was a lot of snobbery around artists like Bob Ross, that, yeah, he sells out and it's not really art, you know, and stuff. But I think his legacy has everything to do with how many people he inspired to take up painting. And if you talk about what they do, this is what this guy did. That's why he had a TV show. That's why he would take you step by step through how to put one of his paintings together. Now, in a lot of ways, the people following him, originality, not too high on the scale, but he brought a lot of people in, and he kind of showed what I think is something that's really very important, and that is how to create the illusion of space on a flat surface. And you guys who watched him and ever did these know what I'm talking about. He'd always start these the same way. You would take your cerulean blue and your titanium white and mix them together with this 2-inch house painter's brush and go across the top so we could have a happy sky. Well, there's a lot to that. It's something I taught painting for many long years. And that's an idea that a lot of people don't think of unless you've seen like Bob Ross or took painting classes somewhere else, that you really want to paint back to front. So the sky is the farthest away. You get that sky down there, you put your clouds in. And then after that, take your palette knife, put in some heavy impasto here. Create your mountains, and there's almost always a mountain in there, and there's almost always some water here. And he would show you how to take a fan brush and kind of mix in. When you painted the leaves on the trees, take some of that same color and mix it around in the lake for a reflection. You know, what did he do? He taught people how to paint. How well did he do it? I think he did it pretty well. And so, yeah, I like this guy. And, you know, you can buy these paintings, by the way, too. They do sell. And I think they go for pretty good money. I think like about $10,000 or something a pop, which is substantial. I wish I could get $10,000. And so I talked to you guys about the Mona Lisa. And one of the things that I was thinking about after we left, because I always think about stuff, I wish I would have said. The Mona Lisa It is, this, I didn't write this, I stole this online. The most valuable painting in history must be the Mona Lisa. And it was assessed at $100 million, but that was 50 years, over almost 60 years ago. They said it would be worth 860 million, almost $1 billion. And so as I was putting this down, my 7-year-old granddaughter was playing some music video, and there was this guy singing about somebody he fell in love with and said that you're my Mona Lisa. I'm like, whoa. But it is that steeped in the culture. And so before, well, I wanted to get to this. Late medieval and early Renaissance in Northern Europe. And this is where I start the textbook. I wanted to break this down just a little bit. First of all, we're really kind of talking about this area up here. This is where we're going to start our tour of art, 1400. And what does it say here? 1477. But what was going on in the world at the time? Well, we have Italy here, which we'll look at it. I'm okay. Just got talking too much, and I had some coffee. And anyway, bottom line, this is what we'll talk about in chapter 21, what happens in Italy. But we're talking about this, and basically this area right up here on the coast, which is modern day Belgium and the Netherlands. And what was going on at that time? The Renaissance. And what the Renaissance means is that there was a revival. That's what the word means. Revival. And what were they reviving from? Well, they had a pretty big run, a pretty long run.
Isn't it called the dark media or is it dark times or something like that?
Dark Ages, yes. But and a lot of us don't use that term so much anymore, but it was. And it was a time after the Roman Empire fell, which was like in the 6th century. Rome owned all of this, but it fell apart.
Wasn't it also because there was not a whole lot of written history around this time? They kind of didn't really keep records as much.
Yeah, they were losing big chunks of their culture because there were only these little places, these monasteries, where things like writing, language, literature were kind of kept alive. Because basically, how many of you seen the movie Braveheart? Nobody. Yeah, West saw it. Anyway, that's a good depiction of what Europe was like at this time. It was kind of like in its own way post-apocalyptic. They didn't have a lot of things, and so their culture kind of went downhill, at least in this part of Europe. And they started bouncing back, and then by the 15th century, they were back. And so that was the Renaissance. And what we're talking about here, I was saying this area here, Flanders, the Netherlands, Belgium, so on. Here was the Dutch Empire. And by then, this little place, where my pointer is, they had colonized much of the different places in the world. And you see this right here? That's North America. And if you know your history about New York, you'll know that it was originally a Dutch colony, and it was called New Amsterdam. And so they had colonies here, what is modern day South Africa, and all over here in Indonesia. And so anyway, they were in on the game. They colonized big parts of the world, West Central African coast, and a couple of spots along the way. And they made a lot of money. When you make a lot of money, you can spend it on stuff like art and architecture, and they did just that. And so I wanted to run it a little. I think I can get this in. Before I go anywhere with this, I want to show you guys. I want to pause it. There we go. The Arnolfini marriage, that's in the chapter 20. It's a another very famous painting. And nobody ever really knew how these artists did what they did, as he described. The idea that they would use lenses never seemed to really occur to anybody. And in fact, they often, most of the time, thought that this is a word that comes from the non-art crowd, free-handed, that they did this free-handed, and that was probably not likely. Even the best draftsperson would have difficulty doing such things in such detail. And so anyway, we stopped this at 1528. There's another 18 minutes on it. I have the link inside the PowerPoint, and I have it on the module as well. If you want to watch the rest of it, it moved a little slowly. I wanted you to see it, though, to get the point that artists forever use the tools available. It's not all just this idea of talent, but it is the application sometimes of science, whether it's a science of color, the science of optics, the science of anything. Riley, you got some? Oh, just saying. Anyway, any questions? Well, I hope that means that you pretty much understand what points I was trying to make, and we'll pick up this time next week. We're off for King Day on Monday. And so after the holiday, we'll see you. We'll be talking about chapter 20, which, as I said earlier, we have a lot of the examples from Hockney or in the textbook. So with that being said, how about you guys at home? Any questions?
No.
Okay. Well, have a great weekend, and I'll see you then.
You too.